Hello and welcome once again to M&H Consultants podcast. On my right here is Anita Menon, and of course I'm Ron Howard. Thank you for listening. I'm not sure what the subject is going to turn out to be today. We're supposed to be talking about the mindset of an entrepreneur, and our very special guest is Hamad Behzad. Have I said that correctly?
You've said it absolutely correctly.
Thank you very much. But we are going to end up going into absolutely everything with him. You cannot put this guy into a pigeonhole. We will try to talk about entrepreneurship, but let's see where we go. First of all, though, we have some breakfast. It's not the most expensive breakfast we've ever had, is it?
Not really, but I thought we'd just keep it light today.
Okay, what is it?
So we have some croissant and some turkey in the croissant, and we have the grilled chicken panini and some coffee.
Right, okay, very light then.
Very light.
So that's for you, the panini.
Sure.
Right, so normally when you talk to an entrepreneur, you would go through all their career and how they started out and what businesses they are and how successful they've become. But we're not going to do that with you, are we, Hamad? No, we're not. I don't really know what first question we're going to ask you. So I'll just ask you a general one.
Yeah.
Tell me about what an entrepreneur is.
Again, obviously the definition of the book, the textbook definition, let's say, is far from it. So I'd like to focus on our personal, let's say, entrepreneurships or interpretations of the definition. It's the ability to not only take on risk, but to have a vision, to analyze a gap and basically challenge it through. Create the wheel rather than just follow the wheel. I think what's very important here that we have to differentiate within business is the difference between an entrepreneur and a small business owner. I think we were chatting just before the show, and we were saying just about this, that an entrepreneur is someone who would go where no light has been there before and try to create that light. Whereas a small business owner would go where there is already lighting and everything ready and would like to, join the waves, let's say.
So you think entrepreneurship is only about being innovative, only about creating something from scratch? What about people who improve the process and make the whole thing better? Aren't they entrepreneurs too?
I think they are the absolute entrepreneurs, because there has been tons of times where people actually call me and say, Hamad, I've gathered this much of money and I have a couple of hours after work. What should I do? I said, well, it's not as simple as just that.
Yeah.
You need to have something or see something which is clearly a gap, clearly a problem, and try to solve it. Trying to do that, I'd say no. Fill it in with a hobby, fill it in with a pastime. Business is not that kind of thing.
Right.
The thing that people misunderstand with business, again, maybe this is my own opinion as well, it is never about the money. The money is the byproduct.
Yes.
It's not the overall goal or achievement.
Right.
The overall objective is to make a difference,
Right.
to tick a box, to understand or to create the experience that before or after you, something has happened, something has changed in the country, in the field, or whatever it is. So this is, I think, the main thing that you would like to create as an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur as well, again, depends on characters, personal traits. Some people, we were talking again before the show, like to stick to structures, should be within certain spheres, and some people are freestylers and you can't tame them.
Right.
So the personal traits play a very big role within an entrepreneur, and how they reflect their own opinion on their business.
I'm going to go through 3 stages, which we've also talked about, Hamad.
Yes.
So I'm a very young 18-year-old.
Yes.
Just finished school, don't have any money. My usual way would be to look for a job.
Yes.
How could I become an entrepreneur?
Okay. I think the first thing is, when you graduate university, this is a path of life. Okay, so up until this stage, you haven't done anything wow. This is your normal route. But beyond this route, you have 2 routes ahead of you. You have the transactional route and you have the transformational route. The transactional route will be, you leave your university and you throw your CV around like frisbees to every organization till you get a nibble and you go join that organization and you spend 30, 40 years. The transformational route is taking a different approach to all of this and thinking, how can I add value to myself and to society around me? So going back to your 18-year-old now, this 18-year-old has two options: either to go work for minimum wage or to create something. Now, to create something, again, that entrepreneur has a chance of being an entrepreneur or a small business owner. The chances are of making a lot more money, if we like, and being a lot more sustainable and being more well-known, you go for the entrepreneur. To be a small business owner, you will find any business to basically just pay you your minimum wage within your job.
So do you think that that minimum wage experience is actually very important at that age, and really that being an entrepreneur that young is not something that somebody should embark on, because you know how uphill that whole journey is. So you need so much guidance, you need so much mentorship. So what do you think that the whole getting into the system and earning a minimum wage is better? Gaining that experience is better. Understanding what processes are like in an organization is important, because you're such a fresh slate at that point in time. So what do you think about that?
I absolutely agree, and from a personal experience as well, I never had a job from university straight into business. And you're absolutely right, because it was only maybe until recent years I started to learn the workplace and social norms.
Right.
Dealing with employees. So I had employees before I had an employer. So I didn't know how to deal with employees. Sometimes I dealt with them as just friends or people, and sometimes that's really wrong. You're either too nice, or then you're either disciplining, or you're being too nice.
Yeah.
Guidance is something you have to know, even just the general structure of things. I had a supplier in my office waiting for me to write a check for them for 70,000 dinars.
Right.
It's my first check. I've never written a check in my life.
Right.
The only thing I had to go back on was watching my dad write my school fees checks, and just went on that basis.
Okay.
I've never written a check in my life. So maybe for me, I kind of like type of, again, it goes back to personal traits. Some people jump in the deep end,
Right.
okay, and face whatever is there. I've done that, but maybe it's not for everybody.
Also, because I think at that age, understanding that you have to create value and make that difference for an 18-year-old, those things are not priorities.
True. I think the main thing which I tell my students always is it's not about just the business or about the project. It's about building up the capacity.
Right.
And you build up capacity personally and professionally. Okay, just like the gym. You start off with small weights until you increase, until you get to higher weights. So that's the main thing. And building up that skills, especially students that I know, maybe they're written or spoken English language isn't great. I say focus on that, because this again builds up the capacity. So there's a lot of traits that basically help. The main one, again, this is actually a story. I was talking about it the other day with a friend of mine, actually, about determination. And even when I'm lacking determination, and there's determination, believe it or not, within all of us, within different forms you have expressed it in your life. And the best way is when you are low, is to remind yourself of that determination. So in the early 2000s, I was maybe less than 10 years old. And I came home from school one day, and they told me, your grandfather called 3 times looking for you. What's going on? So I gave my grandfather a call back, and he said, Hamad, I want you to go on this computer thing and get me the financial results. You like this, Ron?
I will, yeah.
Okay. Of a Kuwaiti company listed on the Kuwait Stock Exchange called Kipco. And I still remember to this day, this is 20 years ago, if not more. I said, okay, sure, grandfather, I'll get it to you. He said, bring it on Wednesday when you come over. That's when the weekend was, Wednesday. I said, sure. Went to the computer, my dad's computer, dial up all those weird noises and everything. And it wasn't as easy, because I don't know if Google was there. I think it was Ask Jeeves or whatever, if you guys remember as well. And I finally found this document. Print. This printer's not working. What am I supposed to do now? And believe it or not, and again, this is being listened, so you don't remember this, but I got 20, 30 pages from the printer, a pencil, because back in those days at St. Chris, that's what I was allowed to use, wasn't even at the pen level, and a ruler, and I hand wrote 40 pages of the financial report, even the rationale at the beginning and the table of contents, wrote it out by text. And on the Wednesday, my girlfriend said, what are these scribbles? I said, well, the printer didn't work, so I wrote it all out by hand.
Oh my gosh.
And he just stopped. He just looked at me. Next day, he gave me a handsome amount. And my mother asked him, why? You know, she didn't know what was going on. Why did you give him such an amount? He said, I could have got anyone to print me out those results in the office. He had a brokerage firm at the time. But for me, my task was to him to see whether he could research. But he proved something different.
Yeah.
He proved that his determination, any obstacle in his way, he will overcome. So I forget the story sometimes. I don't always keep it on my mind. But when it does capture my mind and I'm running low on motivation and determination, I ask myself, where is that 10-year-old? He's within you. Get on with it. And I click into gear and I go ahead.
Right. So let's move on 20 more years.
Yes.
Not from 10 to 30,
Yeah.
from 20 to 40.
Right.
But I have to remark that is extraordinary for a
Yeah.
10-year-old. It's exceptional.
Alhamdulillah.
So now we're 40.
Now we're 40.
We've got family,
Yeah.
2 kids maybe.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. Well, I'm past that.
Ah.
Maybe you.
Oh, yes.
And I'm there.
And you're there.
Yes.
And you're there. Mortgage? You have a mortgage?
No, I don't
No,
have
but
that.
you have responsibility.
I do.
course.
Yes.
So it's not easy to move from a job, is
Mm.
it, to start a business? Because
Yes.
there's one thing you haven't talked about with Will, which is the fear of failure.
Mm.
Yes.
But we're not there yet.
No, it's
So
fine.
you're 40. You are 40.
Yes.
And Anita has made that journey, right?
Yes, I
From
have.
employee to entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The leap, I should say,
The
leap of faith.
leap. Sorry, not the leap.
Yeah.
It's a
The
leap of faith.
large
Yeah.
leap.
A movement is what you do between organizations,
I'm
between
sorry,
jobs.
I
Yeah.
read my dictionary. It's time. So why would I make that change? I'm comfortable, right? 40, got
Yes.
a job, got a house, got kids. Why would I jump and start a
The
business?
word comfortable, Ron, the sexiest word out there, isn't it? Comfortable. The thing is,
Hold on, I never like being comfortable.
oh, you really?
Don't like that word.
I thought that was the thing with accountants. They love being
No, well,
comfortable,
I am
balancing the books.
I am more than just an accountant, believe me.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. So the thing is, we go back to the personal traits. Okay. Why leave my job? Well, first of all, on a personal level, you have one life as far as we know. Okay. You're not going to come back in any form of shape as far as we know.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have one shot throughout this life, even till you're 90. So you get as much degrees as possible, education in that sense, money, personal achievement, relationships, kids, all of that. So it comes back to the quality of life.
Right.
What kind of quality of life do you want to have? Okay. And for other people, again, and I'm counting myself as one of them, for me, it's, alhamdulillah, not about the money. It's about what I will leave behind.
Legacy.
Legacy. Because there will be a day, Hamad who? Dust. Okay? A headstone in a cemetery in Manama. That's it. All my years summarized there. So what have I left? For the country, for the people, for the leadership, all of that needs to be something tangible. Okay, and I'd like to think it's something that not only changed my life and my future wife and kids, but the country as a whole. Another thing with entrepreneurship as well, when it's not about money, it is about ego. It is about, can I do? Okay. In my small industry, it's a bit of a niche as well, I have had suppliers, some politely, some not so politely, say, we've been in the business 60 years. This is my father's grandfather's business. Hamad, who are you? You see ours from 2017. And in certain projects, I showed them who I was. And it's that ego within that powers me up for the next project. Say, I will do that. I will get that. Even if it's at cost. Why? It goes back to your personal traits of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Okay. So why should you? There's tons of reasons. Should you? That's a different question.
Yeah.
Everyone has different circumstances. You know, people always say, don't retire if you've got outstanding loans or mortgages or big credit card bills. You know, there's a time and place for everything. Or kids still studying. You know, there's a lot of responsibilities in life as well. I would also recommend for young entrepreneurs and all of that to keep that in mind. Whether it's school fees, whether it's a house or a mortgage or whatever, start early and start small. If it's saving even as much as 100 BD, 50 BD a month towards something such as that, you'd be surprised later on how, like, oh, it's like you've won the lottery. How did this amount materialize? This will help me with X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
And I say that a lot.
Third stage.
Yes.
More nearer to me.
Yeah. Go to the beach.
6. Okay, well, that's a good. Right, well, we've already answered that one. Yeah, 60 years old.
60 years old.
Career over,
Yes.
just about. Not all. Might have been all employment. Why would I start a business and not just go to the beach?
Well, first of all, we have to appreciate you have accumulated over the years this abundance of knowledge or wealth of knowledge, okay? And even better, you have also been, even maybe not in business, you have been a spectator of business. You have seen people rise and fall, okay? So you have accumulated, again, age and experience being a resource as well. Now, again, it goes back to personal traits. If I use my own family's example, my father and my uncle, both retired as top CEOs.
What age?
My dad, 55,
Yeah.
quite young. My uncle, maybe 57. My father's role is, no, I need to keep thinking of projects and for the country. I'm on Twitter and I'm being very vocal about certain things. My uncle's retirement plan, he went and bought a global map and a pack of pins, and he wants to finish off certain destinations around the world. So there's no proper route.
Yeah.
But if you are willing and you have the steam, let's say, to go on this journey, again, either you can use your own experience for yourself, invest it into consultancy and helping others, being a consultant. There are so many things that you can do.
Right, so that, sorry.
But he started the consultancy firm. He
Well, I've
started
had
it together.
consultancies for many years,
Many-
believe me. I don't know why I'm always tagged as the accountant
Because
who's
you
been
keep
employed
saying
all
that.
my life. Yeah, I've had many
We
businesses.
started Image Consultants about 1.5 years ago.
Yes.
So
Yes, started with you. It's very late in life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, very late in life.
I also think that because I started my entrepreneur journey when I was 34,
Yes.
again circumstances,
Yes.
not really knowing where I was going with it.
Yes.
So without that clarity, what I actually felt was I had a purpose every day.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't hating going to work.
Mm.
I used to wake up with already a checklist in my head about
Yes.
what I needed to do in order to further. So I won't even say that it was ambition or anything like that, but there was that sense of purpose that lodged inside me every single day since I started the firm.
Yes.
So I feel that is also very, very crucial when it comes to being an entrepreneur. That brings me to a question.
Yes.
Is this something that is it something that comes by birth or genetics, or is it just because somebody's mentored you to do it? How do you think that an entrepreneur wears that cap?
Nature or nurture.
And the risk appetite, where does that come from?
The risk appetite, it comes from the appetite to achieve. In my case, I wouldn't consider myself a very entrepreneurial family from both sides of my family, but I'd consider ourselves as a family of achievement when it comes to founders, okay, from
Okay.
both sides. So from my point of view, I always, again, wanted the achievements, wanted to plant the flag. That was my main attraction throughout the whole way. But saying that as well, so even when I started my first business at 18. So I was still at university at the time. No budget, no business plan, simply spending from a debit card on the business. And at the time, my dad was saying, "Listen, Hamad, we've spent a lot of money in your education. We have very high hopes for you." And he was thinking of his own run-up, which is study abroad, come back with a PhD, get a high government ranking job, and you're done thereon. He said, "You're confusing yourself. You're clouding your mind with this business. Money will come. You will always have money.
What
But
was the
focus."
business?
It was sports management, sporting events for schools, universities, and companies.
You founded a company. Was that like a freelancing activity?
It was, but it expanded quite quickly. So it was basically focusing on non-mainstream sports and bringing schools and universities together, respectively.
Okay.
So, for example, we focused on karting. We did karting for schools, karting for universities. And it was very fun, again, at 18, because I did an event in Bahrain, but obviously the market is quite limited. So I went visiting schools from here to Jeddah. Saudi, UAE, Qatar, all of them.
And you're 18 at that time.
18.
Oh.
Just my funnest days of just arriving, traveling economy, arriving, getting a small economy car, brochures on the back seat, and just running from meeting to meeting within 48 hours.
And you did this by yourself, or did you have a partner?
No, I was by myself. It was an individual establishment.
Yeah.
So I was by myself. But it was, again, so my point with that, my dad knows I was doing it, and I was keeping it a secret. But he was never showing any kind of support.
Okay.
When the event finally happened, he showed up. And he just watched in a distance. And we have this relationship with my father. He's my biggest supporter, but he's old-fashioned where he will praise you through your mother rather than come telling you face to face. So after the event, my mother came and said, "Oh, your father was very proud of you. He's come round." He said he saw that, yes, it might be a small project, and my father's not much into sports, being old school, but he saw that how this project you were able to master HR, marketing, operations, strategic planning. So it gave you that tools that you can just scale that into any kind of business, and you have those departments, basically.
Okay.
Finance, and so it was a very energizing experience.
Amazing.
And I got hooked. Once you get hooked, that's it.
Did you keep up with it?
I kept up with it, but then with age as an entrepreneur, once you go into other businesses, the previous business with smaller numbers don't seem that attractive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to don't look behind and look forward for
But
bigger
you
numbers.
found a gap in the market back then to look at sporting events and bring it to schools that were not mainstream sporting events. Was that like a conscious thing, intentional thing, or you just liked gardening?
No, and this is the thing with business or with teaching, I don't see it for what it is. It's all about being personal. Because if you're not personal and personable, I don't love it from your heart,
Then it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
Mm.
So for me, what was my run-up to that business is my own personal trait of being attracted to things being different across the board. Okay, personally and professionally.
Yes.
Things that stand out. Okay, and that's what stood out at the time. The business following that, again, was road safety. Not much people focus on road safety within the Middle East. It's a very small niche.
Right.
But again, you talk about the attraction. So again, that it was a niche, but more or less, seeing your efforts, your ideas saves lives, and you're like standing in the hot sun sweating. You're like, listen, if it just saves one life,
That's what
I'd be so happy. And it's things like that just keeps us going.
So, what we get from this is that it's also something that's there within.
It has to be within.
This entrepreneurship streak is there within you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if it were to be mentored and put in a proper shape with guidance, then it can leap forward and take huge strides very quickly.
But not for everybody.
Mm.
Okay, we come to, and this is my close friends, they say this is your pro and con. You're stubborn, they say about me. Okay, and I agree. And my own parents as well, they say, we warn you about certain things, but you like to test it out. And if they say this is hot, I'll still touch it. I say, yeah, it's hot, but I'll still do that.
You want to see it for yourself.
So for me, I'll be honest with you, having a business mentor or whatever guiding me along the way, I would have lost interest in business.
Okay.
Same thing with teaching. If someone came and taught me how to teach, because whether it's business, whether it's teaching, I like to explore and develop my own color, my own style.
Independent personality.
Yes.
I'd like to think so.
So can I give some hope to those people who are always going to be employees? Because the word you've used a lot called entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Please explain.
So basically the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur is kind of just the ownership, who the proceeds are going to. So an entrepreneur works for himself, will keep the proceeds. An intrapreneur will work for a family, for a company, and help build them up from a concept to an overall mega scale kind of project.
Right.
That being said, I have known to see, and this is again comparing entrepreneurs to intrapreneurs, intrapreneurs who have hit the ground running being entrepreneurs because they have developed that skill. When I hire employees, I say to them, you are technically an employee, but you're an entrepreneur, or intrapreneur, I should say, sorry. Because you are here, I'm giving you an office space, I'm giving you a mobile phone, a car, a laptop, a business card, a CR, and me going with you to support. Go with any idea, come with any idea, and I'll make it yours as well. You don't need to be summarized in a salary of X dinars. No, I want you to be my partner. And again, we go back to personalities. Some people get it, some people goes right above their heads.
So being an entrepreneur is kind of sharing the spoils, isn't it, with the entrepreneur?
I find it being great because you get all the benefits. Okay, well, not the profit benefits, but like still eliminating the risks of being an entrepreneur. Will you pay your school fees? Will you get a salary? Will you be able to pay the rent?
Yes.
All of this is key. So it's not easy.
Do you have a question?
I told you it was very interesting, didn't I? Went very
I have
quickly.
a question. Because when I started off as an entrepreneur, starting was easy. I would still say, when you overcome the initial inertia, you're able to move forward.
Yes.
Your mind is working in a certain direction. Something is happening.
Yes.
I think I struggled the most when I had to scale up.
Yes.
The sustainability of a business depends on how quickly or how sustainably you're scaling up. Otherwise, you just remain there in that puddle and then it just doesn't go anywhere from there. And maybe you'd lose interest or maybe you get comfortable.
Exactly. And I think this is the main thing as well, because from my point of view as well, I have to keep things going, changing, sometimes a bit too fast. But if I don't do it too fast, I lack interest. I get bored quickly.
Right.
So this is a problem. I always say again to students now, focus on the 2 S's. Even before you start up your business. The first S is sustainability. Sustain your business. Can you sustain yourself personally from this business? Does it have the right cash flow? Is it seasonal? These are all fundamental issues. Some businesses are very profitable, but try collecting your cash or collecting your money.
It's hard.
You work for 1 month and spend 6 months trying to get your money back.
Right.
And some people, especially if I'm talking within the manufacturing industry, all these products, materials, you have got finance.
Yeah.
So if you're charging 20% profit or 30%, and the bank's charging you 3-4%, and they take 6 months to pay you back, well, technically you're working for free.
True.
So it's trying to find that sustainability factor. After you have conquered that land, planted the flag, then it's scalability. How easy is it to export to other markets, to even within Bahrain itself?
Right.
It's all about the 2 S's.
Yes. So
Before that, okay, when I look into any business, and this is for your 18-year-old, going back to him, actually applies to all ages.
Right.
It's about the 4 R's. When I go into any business, if you just share an idea with me now, I'll go into my R's. The first one, responsibility. What kind of responsibility will I have? Because you need to factor that in with your personal life and professional life. Okay. The second thing is risks. What are the risks that I will have? Thirdly, rewards. What rewards will I have? Okay. And lastly, if all doesn't go my way, what's the reverse? You don't want to invest into something which is like, let's say, a shipping company. You got to buy 10 trucks. Okay, then there's no business. What are you gonna do with these? What are you gonna do with these 10 trucks? So, or other kind of stock, whatever the business is. So these 4 R's, it's what helps me evaluate or understand, is this worth it or not?
Completely true.
Interesting.
True, yes. Absolutely, yes. So amazing. So basically you're saying anyone can start a business. They need to have a sustainable idea, which later must be scalable as well.
Yes.
Does an entrepreneur need to have all that foresight to start?
The quick answer is no. To be brief, from my own personal experience, I went on a business trip for 48 hours to a nearby GCC country for my first business. And did very well. Managed to bring some teams from that country to Bahrain. It was great. On the flight, I met 2 people who ended up introducing me to a new industry and being my business partners, and to the business we have today, which is changing lives, road safety, all of that, from just riding a plane. Full stop.
So he's an entrepreneur, so trusting.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good. So sometimes it's good chatting to people on the plane, Ron.
How do you know I don't do that?
I know you're one of those guys who do.
One of those guys that would
Yeah,
go in
he
for 8
wouldn't.
hours.
Who just as soon as
Neither would I.
As soon as the plane takes off, you just start looking around like, oh, are they chatty or not?
Who's
Oh,
that sitting next to
We
me?
want people who are not chatty.
yeah. I don't mind anyone except for some kids.
All of these podcasts, I just get not. Yeah. So is the message just do it?
Carefully.
There you go. Just do it carefully.
No, because the situation now, obviously, it's not what it used to be. Let's say my father's age when he came back, 80s. You know, the opportunities, the petrodollar boom, the lack of communication as well. So lack of communication, the being naive makes money. Okay. Now people are smarter. They don't make as money as they used to. So all this takes away from the opportunities of the time.
Right.
I
I think it's suddenly there's a big boom of entrepreneurship culture than in the past, because I think people are better off now.
And the
And they are-
security's not there either for a long-term
Yeah,
job.
we're not struggling for the basics anymore as a generation. I think that has put a lot of things in perspective. You can take risks if you want to.
yes.
So even when I take the example of India, there is so much going on there in terms of VCs investing, public IPOs, and whatnot. I mean, it's just such a huge ecosystem there when it comes to entrepreneurship, and everybody's doing well.
Mm.
So that wasn't the case probably 20 years back, because when we went to school and then later to college, our mindset was to get a job,
Yes.
be in the corporate, be safe, and then be secure.
Yes.
And make sure that you have something when you retire.
Absolutely.
So that mindset has changed, and in the current generation, like my daughter, she's already thinking of the different ways that she can open businesses.
Yes.
So that whole shift has happened.
No, to summarize that as well. So I actually watched a video on LinkedIn filmed in India, where I think one person was asking, I think a famous entrepreneur, I don't think it was Ratan Tata, maybe someone else, but basically saying, this person was saying his father worked in one organization for 30, 45 years.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Now, he says, we struggle to keep an employee for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Why is that? Okay. The problem is not the job. The problem goes back to now people thinking the grass is greener somewhere else.
Yeah.
And once you start thinking that, and I'm not a psychologist, but I'm sure if you go look at the divorce rate nowadays, it's much higher than before,
Right.
because you're thinking, there must be a better partner. Why am I putting up with this? I'm going.
Yeah.
It's the same idea with jobs.
Yeah.
Why am I putting up with my boss? Why am I putting up with it? I'm going. What are the alternatives? If no other job, entrepreneurship.
Right.
But it's the mentality of the grass is greener somewhere else.
Yes.
Whether that's right or wrong, that's a whole different
You'll
story.
find out when you go, won't
You
you?
find out when you go.
Exactly. It's the same grass.
So we never touched the breakfast, did we?
There was
No.
no
It's
time
such
at
a-
all.
Such an entertaining speaker.
Yes.
As I told you, it would be.
I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
About the hustle culture.
Yeah.
That whole need to be constantly be productive. If people are on jobs, yet they want something on the side to hustle and to make that multiple revenue streams and such. And to be constantly be productive. What do you think about that culture?
First of all, when we say the hustle culture, there's two types.
Mhm.
There's the hustle, which people break their back to do well,
Yeah.
and there's the hustler philosophy of trying to rip you off with
Yes.
defective,
We're
cut
going for the
costs.
formal one.
Yeah, we go
Yeah.
for the formal one. So
Yeah.
basically, the hustle approach, okay, let's say the entrepreneurial approach, is to keep going, make mistakes, but quickly.
Mm.
Okay, a lot of people make mistakes, but the benefit is of doing them quickly is you dust yourself off and you get over it.
Right.
I always say the distance between you doing nothing and success, it's a staircase.
Right.
The faster you get up the staircase, the faster you will get to success.
Right.
So you have to go through, it's a process. You will have to go through this.
Mm.
Have I made mistakes? Absolute tons.
Mm.
Professional and personal.
Right.
Okay? But does that stop me from doing anything?
Yeah.
From pursuing anything? No. So it's all about keeping that positive mindset. The grass might not always be greener,
Mhm.
okay? But you should always be pointing towards the positivity.
Mm.
That's very important. That's why maybe especially during COVID, I started noticing this. The importance of mental health.
Oh yes.
Mental health for entrepreneurs. I talked with a few guys about the gym. They're like, oh, you don't come these days. And I was talking to a friend's dad as well. He's an entrepreneur. I said, it all depends on the mood. The mood influences the workouts. That all of them, they understood it because one thing just upsets you while you're leaving the office.
End of
Forget
story.
even eating, not even like working out.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's just gone.
And
It's
and
time to get back to normalcy.
and especially in my case, listen, I have no issues with mistakes. But when you see like a foolish mistake, or when you see wastage, or when you see someone who is being negligent, it brings out all kinds of emotions.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult as an entrepreneur to handle that side of things. And then you add COVID into the mix, and then you add delayed payments, and you add,
It's a great mix.
it's a great mix. But
Yeah.
those good days override like 20 bad days.
Yeah.
Okay, that phone call that you get saying, Hamad, the project is yours. Hamad, come collect the check. Hamad, we're gonna go ahead with you. That phone call is worth everything else.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's what keeps me going always.
Yes, and for all entrepreneurs, I think it's the same. It's that yes that keeps them going. It's the hope. Yeah.
It's the hope. And another thing that I will say to entrepreneurs who, again, the hustler bad ones, you will get away being a cheater, skimming, cutting costs and corners.
Yeah.
And how much will you make?
Yeah.
Pennies.
It is, yeah.
I have never invested into a project. I have invested into a relationship, into the person or people, because again, people move around. So you need to
Yes.
be careful of that as well. Okay. But once you establish that relationship, and I've had this, I'd be selling one product to this organization, and then they randomly call you, say, can you sell me dustbins? Dustbins? I don't sell. Yeah, but we want you to supply us dustbins. Okay, I'll find if you're really like person, I'll find you dustbins. Okay, but why? Because they want you.
It's the credibility.
It's not just the credibility, it's the credibility, it's the brand, it's the customer service, it's the relationship you created.
Yes.
Business is not about business. Teaching is not about teaching.
Right.
It's a connection you create with a person. Again, I said I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not trying to sound like one now.
But it's
my sister's field.
It's your experience, right? About all of it.
It's personal traits.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about creating that link, that bond. Okay, I think there was a quote, I think from the movie Wall Street, I don't invest into projects, I invest into people. I don't invest into deals, I invest into people.
Right.
Same idea, because a deal will come and go.
Right.
A deal is backed by the budget,
Yeah.
but the relationship is unlimited.
That's the transaction.
That's a transaction. But the relationship is unlimited. And that's why, again, in our case, if I'm using my company as an example, there has been times where we have made a mess up of maybe one or two things. But we would go, own up and say, this is what's happened, this is the resolution, and this is how we're going to make it up next time.
So basically, it comes back to the trait.
It comes back to how you play it. Everybody makes mistakes.
You just get up and just move on from
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the mass is deniability, trying to get away with it, trying to say, no, you brought it like this. This is, you left it.
Yeah.
What you're selling the present, or you're selling the future right now for the present. And what is that? Buy the future.
Yeah. Completely true. Do you have something to ask?
I have nothing else to add.
I think it's been a really, really invigorating session, truly. And I see, for me personally, because I am an entrepreneur.
No, it was.
No,
Wow.
I am an entrepreneur.
This is that bad.
It's just
Wow.
that, I am an entrepreneur, and I've got so much on my mind.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter now, does it?
That's being an entrepreneur. And this is what people think. Leave your job, you'll work less.
No, and that's what I keep saying, that you don't glorify this being an entrepreneur. Don't glorify it. It has so much pain. It has so many tears. It's just such a struggle.
Going back to this point, I remember this is a memory still stuck in my head, especially my last 2 years of school in sixth form. Every day my alarm would ring at 7 a.m. And I would turn it off, and I would say to myself, I can't work in a job because I can't force myself to wake up. When I started the business, I'd wake up even earlier. I would sleep even less because
you want it.
Exactly. What you want, you are willing to go to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
It is my determination.
Right.
And again, going back to what the friend said, it's my pro, it's my con, unfortunately, being stubborn.
Yeah.
I won't let go of anything professionally, personally, until I get it or make it mine, if it's in my head and in my heart.
But it's also important to let go when it's important to let go.
It's tough for me to let go.
Because I feel
If I'm not persuaded.
yeah,
It's all about being persuaded.
because you need to know when to kind of cut your losses as well.
Yeah.
Because that's also a very important trait, isn't it, Ron?
Absolutely.
He's the one who taught me that, to let go of things that don't make.
I'm also hurting.
This
you,
seems to be a reference as well, an
Yeah.
academic reference.
Yeah, this is how we got together, me
Because-
teaching her.
Because letting go is cost. Sometimes when you don't let go, it's more costly.
And your
True.
life is much more rewarding now,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It is.
Yes.
There's a lot going on in life. But I think, listen, in any case, within business or personally, in my case, I will listen to 1,000 people to get their advice. But the decision is mine.
You're right.
And it could be nothing to do with 1,000. It could be something totally different.
Yeah.
But at least I took that into consideration.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that I hate is the regret based on me being naive or from me being negligent of just
Yes.
ignoring a certain aspect.
Yes.
So as long as I'm persuaded, and I don't care what the outcome would be if I'm persuaded.
Hmm.
If I feel it in my gut, that's it.
Excellent. I think this was such a fun session.
Right, shall we close it there?
Yes, we should.
Nobody touched the breakfast, did they?
Yeah, those,
Oh, well, we've all been
we'll eat it
drinking
now.
this
Coffees.
We'll let you take that home, Hamad.
Thank you. Cheers.
So close it up then.
Yes. So thank you, Hamad, for being here. It was
Thank you, guys.
wonderful to meet you. This is my first time meeting you. Ron
Likewise.
already knows you.
Very, very well.
Yes. And I've learned a thing or two from your, from your experience. And as an entrepreneur, you cannot stop learning. It's just an ongoing thing. So when we release this podcast, you can watch it on MH Consultants. That's our YouTube channel. And you can keep in touch with us on our Instagram at mhconsultants_bh. And keep watching, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, guys, for having
Thank
me.
you, Hamad.
Thank you, Hamad.
Great talking to you.
Likewise.